little bit about the R15 grant cycle experience. So the first experience, you learn from it. And the first attempt was not funded. It was an R15, was submitted in February of 2013. It focused on obesity prevention using mobile health technology. But the critiques that I received were that it was top-heavy, with too many personnel. A lot of folk wanted to be on it and wanted to do in-kind, but it just was not very clearly written with the scope. There were too many research aims, and basically it was overly ambitious. And those critiques let me know that. But let's look at our second attempt. The current R15 award was given on June 30th of 2015. We made significant improvements. We had our scope clearly defined. There were several preliminary work efforts that we had done to support the proposal. Assembled a smaller, lean, interdisciplinary research team. We also had investigators with specific expertise that aligned with the project. So as I think about Dr. Price, as she was sharing about her expertise, she is the perfect type of researcher that you would want to have aligned with your project. Now, granted you, Dr. Price was fresh out of college, and she was really hungry. I look for folk who really want to work. She wanted to work. And so as a result of her hard efforts, she is now a PI on this grant. So we were talking about the improvements that we made on our second attempt. And of course, I said, assembled a smaller interdisciplinary research team. We had 3 preliminary research projects that really aligned so sweetly to show evidence that we knew what we were doing. Our research aims were clearly written. They were specific and measurable. We had realistic goals and timelines. The innovation was very strong, and our approach was stated very clearly. Our grant is assessing CVD risk factors among African American college students through blood marker investigation. Isn't that a cool title? That's one thing about this title. You'll know everything that we're going to do in the title, and that makes that smart too. We're moving on to page 5, talking about the outline of our research. You wanted us to talk about what the scope of the problem was. We know about the burden of obesity. It's a significant factor in CVD and African Americans. We know that we are living a more sedentary lifestyle. Everybody's on these smartphones with texting, Facebook, you name it, all of these things. And so our students are just not moving as we did back in the day. We were outside jumping rope, hopscotching, doing all those kinds of things, and students now just don't. They're inside couch potatoes. The previous pilot work that we did embraced a survey asking students to self-report being overweight, and over 75% of the students reported that they were. We did a health education and risk reduction intervention for our student health coach project, which was to expose students to research while creating a very positive campus environment towards a healthy lifestyle behaviors. So we know that we can mentor students, that we can expose them to research, and this was published in 2011. CVD risk factor assessment was conducted in 2009. We did a community-based and one on campus. We had 91 participants, 80% were African American, and 63% of those revealed that they were either overweight or obese. So this was published also. Our dean led this manuscript, followed by myself and a few others. And then Dr. Price did a healthy lifestyle intervention for female college students. I'm going to ask her if she'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I gained experience working directly with college students in health behaviors when I conducted my dissertation study. And as Dr. Duren Winfield explained, just after coming here, we collaborated together and combined our experience, and I think really made this grant stronger because we both have experience working specifically in college students, and that wasn't really clear on the first attempt.
Thank you so much. So as we look on page 5, slide number 5, you can see our interdisciplinary research team. Very lean, mean, smart, sharp. And you see the list of investigators. Dr. Price is a principal investigator now. Yay. Thank you, NIH. We did the paperwork. It is official. Dr. Georgia McCauley is a clinical laboratory scientist, nationally certified. So she is coordinating the blood draw. And she has several students who are clinical laboratory science seniors that are being exposed to this research and right along beside her doing this. And they also have already presented at a major conference back in March of this year. Dr. Christina Robertson is our nursing coordinator, intervention coordinator. And our biostatistics and data management is with Carl Kisnick and Research Triangle Institute. Our research aims on PowerPoint slide 6, very simple, very specific, to assess CVD risk factors among African American college students by examining blood markers and anthropometric measurements. Aim number 2 is to pilot test a 15-week CVD risk prevention and intervention program administered as a 2-credit hour, and that's what it was when we submitted the grant, a 2-credit hour semester-long CVD intervention. And it's a course, and we are comparing our course among 2 cohorts, 50 per cohort, of African American college students at WSSU. Well, for AIM 2, the actuality of it is that we have a 3-credit hour semester-long CVD intervention course, and it is going very well. Our goal was like 25 per cohort. Well, 30 were registered last semester, and this semester we have 30 that have registered, and this is for the intervention, and we also have our control group that has equal numbers. So we're going to meet our goals very much. Amanda, would you like to talk a little bit about that course? We worked on this collaboratively together.
So with the slide that's present, the research goals and timeline, we were very specific. So we didn't want to be too ambitious with the timeline, and it took over 6 months for us to get the course approved at WSSU because we had to go through the regular channels at the university to get the course approved. So even though it was specifically for the grant, we had to make it part of our curriculum here, and it's a part of our general education curriculum, and it's actually a quantitative literacy course. And so we used that first year really to plan and develop that curriculum and get the course approved. And then by doing 2 separate cohorts, we've been able to learn from our first cohort into the 3rd cohort. And if you move on to the next slide, that really describes the course and our intervention being a 15-week curriculum that was based on the CMS toolkit as well as the Million Hearts initiative. So it's an evidence-based curriculum. There are hands-on activities. There's e-learning and web-based technology. We developed an app to also integrate with the class where our participants can track their behaviors over time to help them develop healthy strategies of paying attention to their health behaviors. And if you go to the next slide, our control group is enrolled in a personal health behaviors course, at WSSU. That is an existing course, and it goes over all health behaviors in general and doesn't discuss specific behavior change strategies. And that's something that we really incorporated in our cardiovascular disease focus course. So that is a good comparison course for us. And in terms of data collection, on the next slide, we developed 2 different apps, and that's something that I do a lot of work on for the grant, collaborating with our the Research Triangle Institute, and we created an app to manage our research data and a separate app, as I mentioned, that goes with the course. That data, again, or the apps were evidence-based, based on a toolkit that was developed by RTI and tested. So we were able to kind of capitalize on the previous work they did at RTI as well. If you move on to the next slide, you can see us in action, getting students involved. Many of the pictures show both the students that are participants in the program, but again, a focus of this grant is getting our students involved with research and giving them research experiences. So the majority of the assessments were done by research assistants that we trained and prepared them to collect the data, and they also do a lot of work with our data entry on the back end and have helped us develop research products as well. Of course, we plan to learn from everything we have done with this project and develop a really full-scale intervention that can be implemented across a broader number of students at WSSU, and specifically with other HBCUs, as they have the same issues as we do, a lot of students that are inactive and not involved in healthy behaviors. And the last slide, I think, is the most important for us to talk about, which is the reflection of what we've learned. The first is revise, 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 and focus on clarity. When you write a grant the first time, you have all of these ideas and you want to cram them all in, but you really have to edit and you have to make sure it's clear. The second takeaway point is collecting preliminary data, I think, was important in our case because it not only allowed us to test some of the protocols and some of the strategies we would use in the project, but it gave us a lot of experience in the proposed research area to manage a much larger grant such as this one. The next key point is to collaborate. Research cannot be done alone, and it's much better in an interdisciplinary approach. And the last point is to be persistent. It's uncommon to get funded the first time. I think we all know that. So being persistent, and if you get a denial the first time, take that as an opportunity to go back to point number 2 of collecting more preliminary data, maybe on internal research grants or working on other people's research grants and gaining experience. So it's the time that you can continue to sharpen your skills, and also time that you can further edit your initial proposal or further develop your idea to make it something that is fundable. And I think that is all for our presentation. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Duren Winfield.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you also, Willett, for guiding us. We are really excited about the work that we're doing here at Winston-Salem State. We also want to thank you so much for having us today to share what we have learned during this process. So tell me, what would you like for us to do next, Willett?
We are waiting for more questions to come in. While we wait, though, I'll toss a question out. I spoke with Dr. Zhang a little bit about developing a rapport with the program officer, and if you can just speak a little bit about your experience in doing so now that you're pretty much through the halfway mark of this particular award. How has your rapport with your funding officer changed or grown, or what type of insight has the officer been able to provide to guide you through the last phase of this funding cycle for you?
Well, Dr. Hunter has been very gracious to answer and respond to any questions that I might have. And I would like everyone to know that I reached out to her as I was writing the grant. This wasn't anything waiting until the end. You really want to get involved with your scientific officer to know that you're on the right pathway. So we have had a very good rapport. I'd like to report that very much.
That's awesome. I'm just going to put a last call out to our webinar community. Are there any more questions for Winston-Salem State University or Dr. Zhang? Now's the time to bring them forth.
Sounds like we did a very good job. There aren't that many questions too, but I do again appreciate the opportunity to represent my university, Winston-Salem State University, the School of Health Sciences with Dr. Peggy Valentine as our dean, and our faculty, staff, and our students. Without our students, you know, we would not be here. And this research is about them. That's what I love about the Area 15. It allows you to grow research for undergraduate and graduate students. We have 3 graduate nursing students enrolled also as student mentors, and they're doing a fantastic job. They will be working with us with anthropometric measurements. They're presenting at conferences. They're writing their manuscripts and things now. So it's been a very good opportunity for everyone. Amanda, would you like to have a closing comment?
I think that I shared really my comments, which would really be that last slide of don't give up. You can always refine the proposal. You can always gain additional skills, and collaborating with others really makes a much better project and much easier to conduct the study.
We have a few more questions. The first question is, can you speak a little bit about the revisions process or the resubmission process?
Well, I don't want to tout my horn too much, but my proposal was accepted. I didn't have any revisions. I'm so sorry. Are you talking about the first iteration? We had quite a bit, and I listed those in the PowerPoint. It was too top-heavy. Let's say I had about 10 people on that grant. On this new grant that we got funded, you can see we were not that top-heavy. The original grant that was submitted in 2013 was looking at obesity, looking at mobile health technology, and it was not nested with evidence-based research. And so that's important. You know, we want to give information that is going to say this was done. We know that this was done and it's proven. So we're going to let you do this and another group of individuals to see how that will work. So there was a very big difference between the first submission for the Area 15 that was submitted in 2013 compared to the one that was submitted in 2015 that was awarded. Mm-hmm.
We have another great question coming to you from California State University, Northridge. It reads, how did you balance the description of the scientific methods of the research you proposed with the description of student involvement in research in your proposal?
Well, we knew that the research that we were going to do was going to require, and we wanted it to require, student participation. In every research grant that I've ever gotten funded, I've always included students. That's just who I am, mentoring students, putting in the budget monies for students to be able to be exposed to research, to travel to conferences, to be on manuscripts. Every student that I've ever had has written and been on a manuscript. So that was kind of a no-brainer for me, and it was easy to do. We were looking at cardiovascular disease risk factors among African American college students, and we were using blood marker investigation. So we knew that there would be students who would be working with Dr. Price that would do these exercise. We started up with the 1 mile walk. You want to talk about that and what we found out about that? But her students had to conduct these assessments, the measurement, the actual waist measurement, not just for BMI, but other waist measurement circumferences. This had to be done. Students were doing that as well. They're being exposed to hands-on research. I would like to ask Dr. Price to talk a little bit about the 1 mile test.
To answer your specific question about balancing students, talking about the students in the proposal, we mention it throughout several sections that the students could really contribute to certain key research activities, and then otherwise it was a smaller section at the end. So as long as you are weaving it through the whole proposal, they were really integrated with everything we were proposing in terms of the science. And so then it wasn't something where we really had to make major, designate a major section to describing the student involvement.
I'm glad that you framed the response in that way, because we have several questions coming in, all concerned about how your research involves student engagement. So thank you for framing the response in that way. Is there any last thoughts that you'd like to add in terms of student involvement and how you engage them throughout the research?
I think there are many opportunities to get them engaged. One thing to remember is that our institution is really focused on getting our students involved in research and preparing them to pursue careers in the biomedical sciences. So we are well versed in that, and some of the strategies we use are much beyond just collecting data and data entry, because that doesn't really give the students a real experience. So we involve the students in the planning phase. When we are planning the assessments, we have trainings and we ask for their input. Does this sound like a good order of our assessments? Where should we have participants here and there? And we incorporate them in recruiting students. They've had opportunities to look in the literature and find resources for some of our research products. We have explained to them about why we enter data a particular way and what we need to do to get it analyzed. So it's much more than what you assume with a research assistant, which would be basically someone that works with you or for you. We really have them as partners, and I think that's important to include in the proposal, is an involvement of them as, I would say, junior researchers versus people that are just helping you or working for you.
Great. Well, both presenters today have shared a wealth of knowledge with our webinar community. We'd like to thank Dr. Zhang of the National Institute of Minority Health and Health Disparities at NIH. We'd also like to thank Dr. Vanessa Winfield, Director of Research at the School of Health Sciences, and Amanda Price, Assistant Professor in the Department of Exercise Physiology, both representing Winston State University. We appreciate your time. We thank our community for joining us. We also like to let you know that GRC is currently offering a membership discount to non-members. If you would like to learn more, please follow up with Erica Thompson for more details. Also, our next webinar is scheduled for August 29th, and will focus on funding for environmental research with representatives from the EPA. On behalf of your friends at ASCU and GRC, again, thank you, and we look forward to connecting with you next time.